It's not just Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley facing calls for resignation or expulsion. You also have at least one in the House that's receiving that. And it's coming from survivors of the Parkland school shooting, calling for Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, founding member of the Republican Q caucus, to be ousted from Congress after Facebook comments emerged of her supporting a conspiracy theory that the shooting that killed 17 people was a false flag to push gun control. David Hogg said, if you spread conspiracies about mass shootings, there should be no place for you in Congress. Cameron Kasky says she should be removed. She should be punished, but it's probably not going to happen. I probably agree about that. And this is coming from reporting that had been available a while back, but was brought up again recently, of a number of things that she has attempted to scrub from the internet, including 2 years ago, her responding to a comment about that shooting being a false flag with her yelling, "Exactly, Stacey." And in Marjorie Taylor Greene's defense, this makes it seem as if she is like targeted at that shooting and believes the conspiracy theory about it. But I would say that in her defense, based on what we found out about her, she believes every crazy thing that she reads on the internet. And so we can only hold her as responsible as we do for her beliefs about Muslims in government, or about Q and about Satanists and about Comet Pizza and the fact that she apparently still believes that 9/11 was an inside job. Whatever crazy thing the dumbest liars on the internet post on a forum, Marjorie Taylor Greene is going to believe it. And that is the best defense of her that anyone can offer.
It's true. She's the worst. I want you to get to like her response to the people.
I will. Yeah. So following in a distinguished history of people like Bill O'Reilly and things like that saying this, when it was reported that she said these things that she said, she then said, communists, bloggers like Media Matters for America run the same playbook of lies and smears on people they feel threatened by, produce fake news, spread it all around, then tag all fake news stories about their victim in all future stories. Guess what? Nobody cares about your BS except me tweeting about it.
Keep this up, because as a person who myself is in my own opinion, a notorious typo tweeter. So look at those first two words, communists, bloggers. The reason that there is an S on both of those words at the end is because she had one of those first, probably communist because it's capitalized. It was communists like MMFA. And then she was like, oh, I want to call them bloggers too. So she added bloggers later and forgot to make communist singularized. I just love having those moments where you picture Marjorie Taylor Greene, who has read and, as you said, believed all of the nonsense you can just scrape out of the bottom of the barrel, and just picture her being like, I'm gonna get him. I'm gonna get him. Communists like MMFA. Is that good? Read it again, read it again. No, I'm gonna call them communist bloggers. But they are people who do the thankless job of, or the horrible job of combing through everything anyone's ever said. And it's weird that she would be against that, because like the QAnon people pride themselves on being like, did you see the third letter from the end of the word in this thing over here from 1923 that is a harbinger from Q's grandfather? It's like, what? No. These people are doing the correct version of what you think you're doing to save the world. And they're just pointing out something that you said, which was that they get in such a feeding frenzy with just like gorging themselves on conspiracies. They forget things that are important to remember. That there are children who are getting shot at schools, dying, and being terrified at the result of it. And that same dynamic that they just that they want you to cast out, had made its way into the halls of Congress. There are people who invaded Congress and traumatized the people who worked there.
Yep.
Because they
we're actually gonna talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah.
And I mean, look, the point I want to make about this is, first of all, your image of her like tweeting or whatever, like let's bear in mind, that is the only thing that she thinks she's there to do. And I would argue most of her constituents sent her there to do, is tweet about how Media Matters is communist. That That is the highest aspiration of the Republican base. The only aspiration of the Republican leaders is tax cuts for the wealthy. But the base just wants, just call them communists, I wanna see it. But what she's doing there is what, as I alluded to in the intro, this is not new. Bill O'Reilly attacked Media Matters for years because Media Matters does fake news. And the way they do fake news is they quote you. Literally, they do some great summaries of like news coverage of things, and they do reports, and they do some great work. And we have like Parker Malloy on all the time from there for that. The vast majority of what Media Matters does and has done for as long as it's existed is tell you what these psychos are saying. And I don't mean like I would, like when I cover this, or like in an op-ed. I mean, you click on the link and it's a clip from Sean Hannity with the transcript. That's it. There's no opinion, there's no anything. Whatever is fake in that is the person being quoted. And when we just show you calling it a false flag, that is fake news in that it wasn't a false flag, notably. But all we're doing is showing people who you are. That's all that Media Matters is doing. And the question should be, do you actually believe that? Do you believe that all of these parents are lying about their dead kids? What else do you believe was a false flag? Was Sandy Hook real? What do you believe about 9/11? What crazy things are still rattling around in that empty bone jar you've got atop your neck? That's what we need to know. But nobody's really asking her those questions, and I get it. I wouldn't want to talk to her in person either, but she is still a congresswoman. She has as much individual power as any other member of the Republican caucus in the House. These are important questions going forward.
It's so ridiculous. And the last little bit is, there are things they say when they don't have anything to say. And those things are fake news, false flag, socialist, and communist. That just means they don't have an answer. Like yesterday, Mitch McConnell saying that wanting to make voting easier is socialist.
I don't even know what that means.
That just means you don't have an argument. That did not apply. That was not germane, but you think you can say it and people go, rah, because you've conditioned them to do that. But even now, I've got to assume that there's people, we see like the QAnon shaman being like, oh, I was lied to by Trump. And Proud Boy saying he's a failure and he didn't follow through on his promises to me. All of their homeboys are leaving them, or their roll boys are like, they've got flat tires on the side of the road, just being like, oh, that sucks, he slashed my tires. Like that's where it's at. And you've got to assume that when Mitch McConnell says socialist, even his once ardent supporters are looking at him going like, man, this whole thing's been a mistake. Thanks for the Supreme Court justice and the tax cut, but this is a really scary, depressing, sad, demoralizing, anti-American time to be a Republican.
Yeah. For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.